curses! Foiled again! Hey everybody, so today we're going to be drawing Tiffany style stained glass windows. Let's take a look at our supplies. We are going to need a piece of aluminum foil. If you don't have aluminum foil, that's okay. You could just use a normal sheet of paper. That'll work fine. You won't get that metallic luster that Tiffany is known for, but your colors will probably be a lot more vibrant. So it's kind of a trade-off, whichever one you would prefer. You're going to need something to draw with. I'm going to be using a marker, but you could use a pencil or a pen. Crayons really won't work on aluminum foil, but either of those other options will be great. If you're using paper, it doesn't matter. Anything will work. You're going to need something to make the shape of your window with. I'm going to be using a bowl, but you could use a plate or a saucer if you're trying to make a round shape. You could also use a ruler or anything with a straight edge if you're trying to make a square or a rectangle. You're going to need some scissors to cut out your window, so make sure you have those. You're going to need a second sheet of paper to mount your window onto. I'm going to be using a nice dark sheet of paper, but again, any type of paper you have on hand will work just fine. You're going to need some glue to attach your window to your paper if you want to make it permanent. And lastly, you're going to need something to color with. If you're using foil, markers are really your only bet. They're pretty much the only thing that will stick. But if you're using paper, you can use colored pencils, crayons, what have you. Once you gather all your supplies, we can get started. Okay folks, so the first step in making our Tiffany glass window is to make the shape of our window. Now I'm going to be drawing on a piece of aluminum foil so that my window looks a little bit shinier. Tiffany is known for having a very kind of metallic iridescent glass. But if you don't have aluminum foil, that's okay. You could just use a normal sheet of paper. That'll work fine. So to make the shape of our window, I'm going to find an object that's already the shape that I want my window to be in. I'm going to be using this to make a round window, but you could make a rectangular window. You could make a cool Gothic arch, whatever kind of window shape you want to make. So I'll put this on here, and I'm going to trace out my design. You could use a marker or a pen or a pencil to do this. Does not really matter. Marker will probably show up better, but honestly, whatever you have will work great. We're going to trace this thing so we have a nice big circle. Here we go. And now I can start putting my design inside my window. Tiffany was known for using a lot of floral designs, a lot of plants, a lot of flowers. So for my window, I'm going to try to keep with that theme. If you want to do something else, you could do some random shapes. You could do some sort of scene, like some sort of landscape. That could be really nice. But I'm going to do some flowers in the style of Tiffany. So I think we're just going to put a couple of nice basic flowers in here. So I'm going to start with a circle. I'm going to add some petals. Ooh, there's that squeaky marker sound. So add some round shapes around the outside of my flower here to make petals. There's one. And we'll put another one over here. Another circle for the center. Add some petals to the flowers. Ooh, squeaky. Alright, a couple of flowers there. These flowers need some stems, so I'm gonna give them something to connect to. And a couple of curved lines to make the stem of the flower. Doing the same thing for this guy. Adding a stem. And, let's add some leaves. These are plants, they need leaves. Draw kind of a curvy line here. Another curvy line connecting to it. Something like that. And maybe one on the other side. There we go. We got a couple leaves. Now when you're making stained glass for real, you can't do it in just large chunks like this with cutouts. You have to do it in pieces. So to make this look more like stained glass, we're going to divide up our image into lots and lots of little pieces. So we're just going to start connecting random points. Make it look like panes of glass. We're just dividing this thing up lots of different ways. Trying to recreate that stained glass look. Lots and lots of little points. And maybe we'll add some lines inside the leaves, just to make them look like they're made out of panels as well. That looks pretty good. Alright, now from here we get to move on to the part that makes stained glass so famous. We're going to add in all of our color. For this, I'm going to be using some markers. Markers will really pretty much the only thing you can use on the foil to create color in here. Most other colors won't stick. But if you're using paper, you could just use crayons, colored pencils, whatever you've got. So I'm going to start with this nice berry red. We'll color in the flowers. It may take you a few passes to get the color on here. You have to do a layer and then let it dry and then go back and do another layer, just because it likes to slide around on the metal. Again, if you're using paper, you probably won't have that problem. It'll stick the first time. But aluminum foil can be a little bit difficult. But it looks really cool in the end, so it's worth it. Somehow that one came out really, really well. I'm not sure how. I'm finding that it's a little easier to color with the side of the marker than the tip. So if that works for you, it's probably the best way to go. As you can see, you know, it might take you a few tries to get it to stick, but that's okay. So as you can see, after a few passes and a few layers of ink, I finally got it all filled in, colored in. So our next step is to cut this out so that we can apply it to another sheet of paper. So I'm going to take some scissors and we're going to just cut around the outline of this thing. So for me, that's just going around the outside of this circle. Take your time, go slowly, especially if you're using foil, because this is very, very fragile. It's very easy to crumple or to rip. No reason to rush this. Get rid of that. very careful as much as possible not to touch the parts where your marker is, because you might wipe it off. All right, so that's cut out. Now what we're going to do is we are going to glue it down to another sheet of paper. I'm going to be using dark paper so that I get a nice contrast and so it shows up really nicely. But you could use whatever color you have, whatever color you think looks better. We're just going to take this and we're going to glue it down right on our paper. And there you have a homemade Tiffany glass window. So now that you've seen how I made my window, I want to see yours. Make sure you take a picture and post it to the class art gallery.